Welcome to Chapter 6 of the book of 1 Samuel. Chapter 5, we saw how the ark was taken by the Philistines and caused them nothing but problems. They were struck with infirmities in their behinds, in their buttocks. And to alleviate that, we'll find out in this chapter. It begins, "And was the ark of the Lord in a field of the Philistines." Now, I could put the ark of the Lord was in a field, 1, 2, 3, 4, but there's so many of those, you almost have to do it all the time because of the word order of the Greek. I have no problem following the numbers. I'm so used to doing it for 15 or 20, 30 years, but other people that are new at it might have a difficult time. So, and was the ark of the Lord in a field of the Philistines 7 months. So they went through all these torments for 7 months. And the Philistines called the priests and the clairvoyants and their enchanters. It sounds almost the same type of people that were in Egypt for Pharaoh. They had priests, clairvoyants, enchanters, and they copied a lot of the things that Moses did, but not all. Then here they come, they're called to find out how the people should deal with this problem. And it says, "What should we do with the ark of the Lord? Make known to us in what we shall send it unto its place," or how. Make known to us by how. I could put by how we shall send it. I might change that in the next edition, which I am beginning working on a couple of days ago. We're in this coronavirus shutdown of the whole world, and I am enjoying it, actually, because for me, the time I can spend now in the Bible and doing this third edition, everything seemed to work out well for me before. I was able to pay my house off and get out of debt, so I'm free to basically spend the time not worrying about anything money-wise, and I'm enjoying myself. It's quiet. Right next door here, we have a pub. It's called the Pub at Nye Creek, I believe. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, these trucks come in and unload food and beer and so forth and make a lot of noise, wake me up. And I'm within 2 blocks of my house. Either way, it's like 15 restaurants. I'm right on the beach. I'm a half a block in, but so a lot of tourists, a lot of traffic going by, very noisy. And so now there's not a soul on the streets, no cars, and it's very quiet. And really, I enjoy it. But I empathize with all the people that are suffering, money, material-wise, or being stuck in a house and so forth. Or my friend Rich, who's he's going to be 83, and he's in a home now, and they are making everybody in that home stay in their room this whole period of time. Well, so if you think you have it bad, think about being in one room and not being able to get out of the room. And that's what happens with him. So this is going on, and it continues, and they said, if you send out the ark of the covenant of the Lord God of Israel, do not send it out empty, but by delivering over, you give it back for the torment. So, but if it goes back, then put something there. Their respect for the ark was greater than Hophni and Phinehas, who took it out when they were not supposed to from the tabernacle and to the field where it was captured by these Philistines. Philistines had more respect for the Ark of the Covenant than these priests. And then you shall be healed, and it shall be atoned unto you. It will be taken care of, the atonement of it. You'll pay the price to get healed by sending it back. Should he not remove his hand from you? And they say, well, what thing for the torment shall we give for it? And they said, according to the number of the satrapies, I forgot to mark that. You could put that in the English derivatives book. I think it was in the last chapter also. Arithmon, arithmetic, comes from that word. What? What are they to get to put together? Pente, a pentagon, 5. Buttocks of gold. Now, what a buttocks of gold consist of? I guess it looks like it doesn't say if it's a human's behind or if it's the buttocks of an animal, but 5 buttocks of gold for the fault in you and your rulers and to the people. So these priests were pretty wise. And 5 golden mias, mice. You can add that to your English derivatives book. Pretty sure mice came from that Greek word. And 5 golden mice. A representation of the meon, the mice corrupting the land. Now this is interesting. I saw this, I'm thinking, well, this is very, very interesting. This was 1,000 years before Christ and a couple thousand years before the plague in Europe, the Black Plague. And the Black Plague was caused by rats which carried fleas, which carried this virus. And here we have these mice, which are like little small rats. They carried fleas also. And if they had the plague or the virus and they bit somebody, then they would get sick, sort of like with the plague that we're going through right now. I don't know how it's transmitted from people cover their faces, but yet it seems like it's being transmitted as much even after they cover their face. But these mice. So if the people had been reading the Bible and paying attention during the Black Plague, they would have seen that the mice, these rodents, had something to do with the plague, and they should be probably getting rid of these rodents. The rodents are all over the world. There's some very interesting videos if you like to watch something very entertaining. And it's really bizarre, but it's in the Midwest where there are these chicken, chicken farm. I don't know if it's a farm, but they have this huge place where they put the chickens. That's not a cage. It looks like it's like 30 or 40 feet long by 20 or 30 feet wide, and they can pull it with a tractor away from where it's at. And when they do that, they bring these rat terrier dogs out, a bunch of them, and they dig up with a backhoe. They dig up all this dirt underneath where the chicken coop was, this huge coop, and all of a sudden, all these rats go flying out, running around, and these dogs just go into a frenzy. And you can watch it on YouTube. Just look up rat terrier and killing rats, and all these dogs love it. I mean, you can see the smile on their face. And they start from the morning until evening, and these dogs do not stop chasing these rabbits and grabbing them and killing them. And they have piles of 300 or 400 rats. Now, some people may get sick and hearing this story. I'm sorry, I should have warned you before. But the rodents of carrying disease and so forth basically through the fleas is something that we need to watch out for. People on the farms, I'm sure, know. And then it continues, and you shall give to the Lord God glory. So not only these things, but give him glory, so that he should lighten his hand from you, and from your gods, Dagon, and from your land. Really good advice. we should take that advice today. The Philistine priests, listen, do it, give glory to your God. And an atonement, well, we have Jesus as our atonement who pays the price to free us from the wrath of God. And why do you oppress your hearts, cardiac, as Egypt and Pharaoh oppressed their heart? Was it not when he mocked them, he sent them and they went forth? Yes. And now, take and make a new wagon. So don't do what Pharaoh did, resist, and have all these things get worse and worse. Learn from that. Again, good advice by these Philistine priests, the priests of Dagon. And now take and make one new wagon, and a duo, 2 oxen, having given birth for the first time. So they're the female of the oxen, cows, I guess, and then take them without the offspring, upon which a yoke was not placed upon. So these animals never had a yoke placed upon them. They have just given birth for the first time, and these animals are very, very protective of their babies, the female of the animals. I'm very, very protective. You even get close, boy, watch out. And then team the oxen on the wagon and lead away their offspring from behind them unto the house. So you take away their babies and put them into a barn, basically. And normally an animal would turn around and try to go after them, be very upset, do whatever it could, wouldn't do anything you wanted. It wanted to get back to its babies. But now you're to hook them up to the wagon, take the babies away. And you shall take the ark of the Lord, and you shall put it upon the wagon. And the items of gold, the buttocks and the mice, deliver it for the torment. Now, I could have made a comma here and then put the semicolon there, I suppose. And you shall put in place a chest from out of part of it, and you shall send it, and it shall go forth. So now they're to make a chest like the ark from out of the wood, I suppose it's talking about. Maybe they put the mice and the buttocks in those little statues. And you shall send it, and it shall go forth. And you shall see if into the way, the odometer, the derivative, the way of their border it shall go, according to Beth Shemesh, if he did to us this great evil. So if it goes there, then we'll know it was God doing it, Yahweh, Jehovah, Kyrios. And if not, then we will know that it was not his hand that touched us, but that this was a coincidence to us. And the Philistines did so, and they took 2 oxen, having given birth for the first time, and teamed them on the wagon, and their offspring they shut up in the house or barn, and they put the ark of the Lord upon the wagon, and the place chest, and the mice of gold, and the images of their buttocks. And the oxen straightened out in the journey into the way to Beth Shemesh, in a road in its going. And they labored, and they turned not aside, right nor left. They were pulling it heavy, and these oxen are pulling it, laboring, working on it. So that's amazing, instead of turning towards the babies. And the satraps, and there you can, that's the one I was telling you earlier, you could put in the English derivatives books, transliteration. The satraps of the Philistines, the governors, went after them unto the borders of Beth Shemesh. So these rulers following this wagon with the being pulled by the oxen to see what's going to happen. And the ones in Beth Shemesh were harvesting the harvest of wheat in a valley. And they lifted their eyes, and they beheld the ark of the Lord. So they're working, and all of a sudden they look up, and here comes these oxen with the wagon and the ark. And they were rejoiced to meet it. And the wagon entered into the field of Eosiah. I have Joshua. It's not the same spelling as the other Joshua, Esus. So maybe I'll change this one in the next edition. A field of Eosiah, the one in Beth Shemesh. And it stood there by a great stone, huge stone there. And they split the wood of the wagon, and the oxen they offered for a whole burnt offering to the Lord. Sounds like they did everything right. Saw it, they cut the wagon, so they had to have taken the ark off of the wagon, and that was a big mistake. And then they killed the oxen and burnt them up for a sacrifice. And the Levites brought the ark of the Lord and the place chest with it and the items of gold and put them upon the great stone. So, and the men of Beth Shemesh offered whole burnt offerings and sacrificed sacrifices to the Lord in that day. And the 5 satraps of the Philistines saw when they were following, and they returned to Ekron in that day. And these are the gold buttocks which the Philistines gave back for the torment to the Lord. One for Ashdod. Now these are all in the Gaza Strip area. You can go back to the last chapter. I have the map. One for Ashdod, one in Gaza, which is still around, and Ashkelon 1, Gath 1, Ekron 1. And gold mice, according to the number of all the cities of the Philistines of the 5 satraps. Now, exactly how many mice that is, I don't know, but I think it was more than the 5. And from out of the city being solidly fortified, and unto the town of the Perizzite, and unto the great stone of which they placed upon it the ark of the covenant of the Lord, until this day in the field of Eosiah, of the one in Beth Shemesh. So now the ark is back, sons of Israel, and he struck, that is God, the men of Beth Shemesh, for they beheld the ark of the Lord. Now, see, they weren't even supposed to take it out of the tabernacle, and people weren't supposed to see it. They had these veils covering it in front. Nobody that wasn't the priest or the high priest was to even see it once a year. But yet they took it out, that is Hophni and Phinehas, so they were punished, and now comes back, but these people saw it. Now, what they were supposed to do is hide their heads and not look? I don't know, but it says, and he, that is God, struck among them 70 men and 50,000 men. That's 50,000, 70 men from out of the people. And the people mourned because the Lord struck among the people an exceedingly great plaguein, a calamity, 41:27. Now, this is we get the word plague can come from that, but it's more than a plague, because a lot of places where you'll see this word, it's nothing to do with the type of a plague that we're having today, or the plagues that I mentioned in the last chapter, but it's something terrible happened. It could be a stroke or a beating, calamity, so forth. But the word is a derivative for plague. And they said, that is the men from out of Beth Shemesh, who shall be able to stand before the Lord? Exactly. Who can stand before the Lord when they're in sin? And the men in Beth Shemesh didn't do the right thing, and we, everyone here that's watching, everyone that's not watching, everybody living, who can stand before the Lord if you have sin in your life? And we all do. There's no one that says in the Bible, there's no one that does not sin. And so standing in front of the Lord with sin is not a good place to be, because God will send that person away, and it says to everlasting fire, outer darkness, all. It's not going to be pleasant. But Jesus Christ has paid the price that he's come in, and he takes us to be with him rather than suffering the wrath of God, as he says. This is going to be the wrath of God. Who can stand before this holy God? God is holy, sinless. And to whom shall the ark of the Lord ascend from us? And they sent messengers, angelus. There's the alpha, gamma, gamma. Has to do with the message. Whenever those three letters are together, it has to do with the message. And they sent messengers. Now, if it was God sending them, then there would be angels here, even if the word was the same. Because God sending them, we have angels. And they sent messengers to the ones dwelling in Kirjath Jearim, saying, well, the Philistines returned the ark of the Lord, and you go down and lead it up unto you. Sort of like, yeah, oh, so they're going to bring it up, but that even causes other problems, and we'll see what happens in chapter 7, the results of moving the ark a second time. Hope you'll join us in chapter 7. Until then, God bless.